Hi there. In our earlier tutorial, we saw how can we use various React hooks. Now, in this tutorial, we will cover the another React hook called useRef. The purpose of the useRef React hook is to access the DOM. As you can see, I have created a form and I submit that form with submit handler and target the form with regular vanilla JavaScript UI. So if I type something, if I enter, I can see my output appears here. Now we will try to achieve the same thing with the useRef hook instead of a vanilla JavaScript. So to do so, I need to use the useRef hook. So to access the useRef hook, I have to move our code or the target code in outside of my target handler or form handler, or because our React hook cannot be assigned into any block level component, inside any block level component. So I have to use useRef. VS Code already automatically import in the top from the React library. So I have the useref React hook for my name element. So when we use vanilla JavaScript, we target our any component by ID, class name, or etc. But when we use useRef, we have a special property called ref. And inside the ref, I have to give the same name we got from the useRef instance. So I have to type name element. Now name element do not return a regular object, a regular file, a regular value. Instead it return an object. Let's see in action in our console. If type something, suppose my name, I can see the name property is an object. If I go here I can see it has a property called current. So to access the value, I have to use current property, then the value. If I save my file, if I clear my screen, if I submit, I can see this time I am accessing the value of my input field. So this way we can use the useRef hook to access the any React React element. The useRef and the useState hook has little bit differences, because useState hook, when we use useState hook, it will render the DOM on every changes. But when we use useRef hook, it do not render our DOM. So I cannot use this name or this name output in my application. We always have to use this in the form submit form. So we saw how can we use useRef hook to access the DOM element. useRef hook has another use case. If I go to my caching folder, I already create another file called caching and import instead of form, import the caching. If I save my file, I can see that I create a timer inside my useEffect hook. So my purpose is to stop this countdown when a timer, when we click this button. We will achieve this with the useRef hook, because useRef hook has a property called caching. So we will use the caching property to achieve our task or goal. So for that, how can we stop this timer? To stop this timer, I have to use I have to get a variable from the setTimer function, and in my timer stop button handler, I have to use clear timer, and then I have to use the name, same name, timer. But in this case I cannot use this way, because we know that constant or let keyword make variable in block level scope. So to access the timer outside of my useEffect block, I have to use timer is equal to 0, then I can use retimer again. If I save my file and if I click this timer button, I can see my timer is stopped. But in my VS Code editor, I already configured with ESLint. So if I hover over this warning message, I can see that it says that if I down to access the full message, I can see it says assigning to the timer variable from the React useEffect hook will be lost after S re-render. So then I have to prevent the value over time, store it in a useRef hook and keep the mutable value into the current property. Otherwise you have to move the variable inside the useEffect hook. That means it says that when we create any variable outside of my useEffect hook, when my state value changes, it will reassign or recreate the same variable, and when this happens, then our value will be lost after between the renders, component re-renders. So to prevent this, we have to use the useRef hook this way. Now we know that useRef hook return an object. So timer is now an object, and timer has a property called current. Now my error is gone. So when I have to stop, have to stop the current timer dot current property, because I store the value of set timer with the current property, within a current property. So if I save my file, go to my browser, my countdown is start. If I click this button, my timer is off. We can see that we can use useRef hook to remove this type of warning message. So how the useRef hook access the cache? Let's see how can we achieve another thing, similar thing with another way instead of useRef. So let's comment out this line, and this time instead of useRef I am using a regular object and give an object with the same property called current. Current is equal to 0. When we do that, it says useEffect shows another warning. It says I am missing the timer variable, because inside my useEffect hook I am using this timer variable, so I have to use the timer variable here. Now this error message is gone, but it creates another warning. If I remove my browser, I can see it says the timer object make the dependency of the useEffect hook changes on every render. To fix this, wrap the initialization of timer of the timer into its own useMemo hook. So I have to wrap this object into a useMemo hook, because it re-renders every time when it will be reassigned every time when my component will re-renders. So how do we prevent re-rendering? We already covers in our earlier tutorial then how the memoization works. So let's see how can we solve this problem another way by useMemo hook. So we know that useMemo hook access two arguments. First one is callback, second one is dependency array. So I have to move my code inside there and have to return this one. The useMemo hook create a cache or create this variable into my cache memory and load from my cache memory when my application re-renders. So if I save my file, I can see that I will get the same output. Now stop this click button to stop the timer. My timer is stopped. Now this is the same effect we can get by the useRef hook. That means useRef hook also create a cache. That is the second nature of useRef hook used in the React application. So if I remove the complex or useMemo hook, I can use the useRef hook to achieve the same result. If I save my file, my timer will start and I will stop my timer by clicking this button.